2280.
With the power of Tandem HR, you are in the fast lane on Main Street with Get Down to Business with Shalom Klein, the show for business and jobs. Now, the champion of networking, the advocate of jobs, the guru of business, your host, Shalom Klein.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "You must do the thing you think you cannot do." We are all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship and business. We talk a lot about business here. You are on with Get Down to Business, and I'm your host, Shalom Klein. Remember, you can always download podcasts from Get Down to Business on my website at shalomklein.com. And while you are there, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Shalom Klein. It's going to be a jam-packed week of content and information you won't want to miss. This week, we're once again talking about small business culture and environment. And this week, we're going to be joined by guests Congressman Bob Dold, Mark Goodman, Jake Garfinkel, and finally, we've got Dave Burns. And I'll be sharing tips on saving money on business travel at the end of the show. It's a live show. You could call us at 312-642-5600, 312-642-5600. Call in and let us know what you think. Call in with your questions. Thrilled to be joined on the phone with Congressman Bob Dold, who I understand represents the third largest manufacturing district in the United States. Congressman, isn't that an honor?
It is indeed. Shalom actually used to be number one until the redistricting. Now it's number three in terms of manufacturing. But still, when you talk about manufacturing and small business, it's absolutely vital.
Well, Bob,
that's why I'm pleased to be with you today to talk about what's going on not only for small businesses but certainly manufacturing. And now the 10th District, how important it is not only to the 10th District, but to the entire region in the Midwest.
It sure is. Manufacturing in the 10th District supports many of the businesses all across the Midwest, which is so important. But Bob, thanks for joining us back on the show. You're now a repeat guest, so there's no running away from us. Bob, what's it like to be back in Congress? Are you do you have an incredible headache yet, or is that still yet to come?
No, listen, I tell you what, I'm delighted to be able to be back to be the voice of the 10th District and to try to bring small business perspective back to the House. I mean, to have someone there that meets a budget and a payroll and understand what it's like to make sure that we're trying to hire more people is, I think, certainly a big asset for the district. But it is frustrating at times because we want to make sure that we're actually getting things done. And frankly, I know that most constituents and people that I talk to, they don't think Washington is working, and it's not, and we need to make sure that we're rolling up our sleeves and working together because there's so much more, Shalom, that we agree on and we disagree on, and we need to get some things done.
I know on many of these issues it becomes a state-level discussion. Obviously, we have a new administration down in Springfield that's hopefully working to stem the tide of businesses leaving Illinois. But on the federal level, what can you do? What can we all do to support businesses in the 10th District and beyond to make sure that they could make Illinois, make the 10th Congressional District home, and not flee to other states?
Well, there's a number of things. One is that I think certainly we need to make sure that people know that Illinois is open for business. We have all of the assets here, Shalom, as you well know, in the 10th District to attract those businesses. We've got certainly incredible schools. We've got great talent. We're close to one of the greatest cities in the nation, unbelievable natural resources, our infrastructure, and yes, we need to be investing in our infrastructure, but our infrastructure, if you look at it in a map, is actually one of the best in the nation in terms of just how do we get our raw materials in and our finished product out. And so this is something that we need to expand upon, but as we look from the federal government perspective, our tax code is one of those things that we need to make sure that we're globally competitive because we're not dealing in domestic economies any longer. We're really just in a global economy. So our tax code is going to be one of those things. We have to deal with immigration. Another thing, the first bill I introduced was the Startup Act, talking about the fact that we're educating the best and the brightest from all over the globe here in our nation. And the first thing we do when they graduate with that master's degree or PhD is that we kick them out to go compete against us. When what we really should be saying is, no, we want you to stay here, innovate here, create the next new patent here in our country, and create more American jobs.
We are talking with Congressman Bob Dold, who represents the 10th Congressional District of Illinois. Bob, I know you're out and about in the district. Anybody who's who lives in the 10th or follows you anywhere knows that you're visiting many of the businesses. Tell us an example. Give us an example of some of the manufacturing businesses that you've visited that will be impacted by the lack of action on immigration. Give us examples of some of the businesses that you're working for every day during your time in Congress.
Well, there's a couple of things I would say. One is that when I walk into a manufacturing shop, walked into one a couple weeks ago that basically said, Bob, I've got good jobs available here. And the average manufacturing job, Shalom, as you know, is $77,000 a year is the average manufacturing job. They say, I've got good jobs available. I can't find people qualified to take the jobs that I've got available right now. And so we want to make sure that we're, again, not only preparing students, which is going to go to an education bent, but also that we're bringing in skilled labor from all over the globe that wants to be able to come here, whether that be from Poland or some of those other areas, if you want a skilled welder or some of those other things that we were able to get. I was talking to someone that runs another business just last week that said, listen, we would really much like the H-2B visa situation straightened out because our workforce is, a workforce that is going to come and then going to go back to their home countries. But we want to make sure that we're able to do it and do it legally. And things are so antiquated with our current immigration system, they make it so difficult for us to comply that we're just not going to deal with that. So there's a number of things that we need and can do to make the immigration system work to be able to allow our businesses to grow and thrive. And frankly, we need to be working on trying to make sure that we're bringing more good careers to the 10th District because we still have those pockets in and around the 10th District that is the unemployment rate is far too high. And so we need to make sure we can get them, those individuals back to work and into a good high-paying job.
Bob, are you working on any legislation right now that you're hoping to introduce that will impact the small business community?
Well, there's a number of different things. One is, the Main Street Fairness Act is one of those pieces of legislation that I've been supportive of in the past, and that, as you well know, we've got people that can operate an internet business that the brick and mortar of mom and pop that's down on Main Street actually has to turn the lights on and pay for police and fire and all those other things. They actually have to have the product on the shelf, and so they'll have people that will walk through their door. They'll touch and feel the product, and then before they leave, they'll press, purchase on their phone and have something shipped to them. They're actually operating at a disadvantage. So that's one of the pieces of legislation that I think is important. As we talk about Main Street fairness, it's not an introduction of a new tax. It's just talking about collection of those different fees. And frankly, from my perspective, we want to make sure that we're encouraging our entrepreneurs and small business, and there is an exemption there for those startup businesses and the like. So that is a piece of legislation that we're working on right now. We're obviously working on some immigration legislation right now, and then there's also some regulatory things that we're looking at. And so one of the things that I'm sure you hear all the time in your networking and talking to businesses, I know I hear it all the time, is the fact that we have a lack of certainty. And so businesses don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. Certainly our financial institutions, many of them are dealing with a lot more compliance as opposed to trying to make sure that they're getting out and trying to put capital to work, trying to lend it to entrepreneurs. And so that's a huge frustration. And as you know, if you can't see what tomorrow brings, chances are you sit on your hands and you don't move forward until you have some more certainty. And so the regulatory burdens, it's not that we're against regulation. We just want the regulations out there to be smart and tailored. And that, I think, is really important.
That is, I would argue, probably one of the most important things. I know you hear it all the time from constituents, but I hear about it as well. The people that just cannot understand how to do business because it's so complicated. And we need to cut that red tape, make it easier for businesses to start in business, to be in business, to do business with government. There are a lot of opportunities that most people just turn away. So, Bob, we've got just under 1 minute remaining. We can't complete this interview without talking about the announcements that are taking place almost every single week. It seems like everybody's running for president. I feel the odd one out. I'm probably the only one that's not. Is there anybody out there that you're impressed with?
Well, I tell you what, there's an impressive group of people that are running. I think that certainly on the Republican side, there's a number of different candidates that are putting the feelers out, but I think we know that most of them are most likely going to run. And I think that we want someone that's going to be a uniter, not a divider, someone that recognizes that we need a big tent out there that wants to be pro-growth, that wants to create more opportunities for the next generation. That's the key that, again, as I talk to Republicans and Democrats, those are the things that unite us, and we need leadership, certainly not only domestically but internationally. As we know, the world today is probably one of the more unstable environments we've seen in a heck of a long time. We need leadership internationally right now more than ever before.
That's why we love Congressman Bob Dold. Thoughtful, independent, moderate leadership. That's exactly what we need more of in Washington and in Springfield as well. Bob, thanks so much for joining us on Get Down to Business. How can people get a hold of your office?
They can call the D.C. office is 202-225-4835. We've opened up an office in Lincolnshire. We have one out in Round Lake, and we'll most likely be opening up a third. So we'll give you more information on that.
Fantastic. Shortly. After the break, we're going to be talking with Mark Goodman, who's going to tell us a little bit more about marketing. Bob, thanks for joining us. You're listening to Get Down to Business.